Yeah, great. Hello everybody, my name is Geoffrey. I'm working for the French Data Protection Authority called CNIL, and I'm part of a very specific team in this authority, which we call LINK. It's, in the other way, it's for the Digital Innovation Laboratory of the institution. So in fact, we are kind of something like an in-house policy lab, like was just described, so I'm going to be very quick on what we are doing, because it's important for you to understand what is my job, because it's pretty specific for a data protection authority. So our job is to explore emerging trends and try to build a conversation around those emerging trends and create the conditions for recommendation and new tools for regulation. We are experimenting and creating prototypes or proof of concepts too. And lastly, we are kind of a link, more natural link between a regulator and the innovation actors like startups or academics and researchers. So in this mission, we decided to work, we have some publications, and we decided to work on the topic of smart cities. And we published this document last year. You can find it on our website, which is link.cnil.fr. Unfortunately, the whole document is only in French, but we have a specific, the last part of the document is in English. I will put the link on the screen.io afterwards. And just want to walk you through our process for exploring this topic. So, first thing was that we wanted to look more closely at this topic because it's a trending topic. I don't think you're learning anything here. And in fact, the idea at the beginning was that we saw a lot of reports, projects, using this smart city world without explaining a lot of things and with visions that were sometimes a bit strange for us. So we just wanted to put our little, be there, be inside the debate and not be part of the conversation around smart cities. And in fact, what we did is that we tried to explore these three domains, these three issues. First one is that we kind of feel like new platform business models are arriving, invading the city services and urban services ecosystem very quickly. And kind of a data versus services model that exists on the web is coming to the cities, and this is very strongly changing the balance of power between public and private actors. And we can see that for local authorities, local governments, it's beginning to be very, very difficult to keep autonomy and be able to negotiate and create new projects without being, inside this walled garden of the platforms. I think I don't need to explain more those different types of services, but when you have things like Uber, what Facebook is doing, like Strava or Waze, that are becoming very strong operators on your territory for local governments, it has a lot of, or national government, it has a lot of consequences. Just wanted to point out several examples. First one is when everybody is using Facebook, and then you have the safety check feature. You may remember that in 2015 we had a terrorist attack in Paris, but it was a huge terrorist attacks in Paris, and people used a lot Facebook safety check for this event. And you have the government that was trying to create a specific smartphone app for public events, and it was kind of a failure. It was stopped last year. And so this is very strange to see that even for national governments, it's sometimes more easy to try to just piggyback on those platforms that are created by private companies instead of creating their own, maybe clumsy, maybe less efficient, and with nobody on it, platforms. Another example is when you add all those developers, ecosystems, and people working, for example, around Android platforms for Google, when Alphabet is creating sidewalk labs to help local government to manage these smart city issues, it's very, very tempting for local government to say, okay, it's free, I can just use the tools and platforms that exist already, and it will be more efficient than what I can create myself. Which is not a bad thing, it's just that it's really changing the balance of power. Another example is what Waze is doing right now with a Connected Citizen program. So I don't know if how many of you know this Connected Citizen program. Okay, so I'm going to explain a little bit. The idea is that you have, this is a screenshot of the website of the Connected Citizen program, and so it's very interesting because when you look at this website, it's just like a normal website, and you can create your account and be part of this program that is created by Waze, but it's not for the end user, it's not for the Waze user, it's for the local government. You can come here, create an account for a city, and sign up for a contract with Waze, and the idea is that Waze will give you tools and data to monitor in real time traffic and transportation and mobility on your territory. And it's very, very efficient because the data are very good when you have a lot of people. And in France, several towns decided to use this program because they wanted to add information on what was going on with the street in another street. And we totally understand that it's again, it's free, it's quite efficient, and the data are there. But it's interesting to understand that because when you are inside a partnership like that, well, your incentive as a local government is that everybody is using this platform because you will have better data. So you can see that the relationship between private and public actors is changing a lot within this space, even if it's only free services. Same thing for Uber movement. It's an open data project from Uber, or for Strava. Maybe you saw that, and it's another example of legal implication of those services. Strava creates a map of people doing running and things like that, and they discovered, journalists discovered that with that you can discover military secret bases because the people are running around them, and it was on the open data map. And if you just look at it on very normal level, you just say, okay, the user just consented to sharing their data and Strava is publishing it, but the public policy's consequences are quite important. So this is a changing environment, and for Data Protection Authority, our job is not to create public policies for local government, but we need to understand in the environmental context in which they operate to better regulate them. So what kind of private ICTs are we building by fostering this kind of services? We can have some legal answers, and I think that the GDPR creates some of the legal tools we need to improve the situation, but the steps are very high. For example, I really think that when you look at what I've just shown you, it shows that local government will need to have a lot of expertise on this issue of data and data protection, and so the data protection officers, for example, when you are a big city, or maybe it's very easy to have someone that is very good and expert at it. When you are a very small local government, it's going to be quite difficult to manage all those concepts. And in fact, I may need to answer some of key questions that I don't have the time right now, but maybe later around, for example, anonymization or pseudonymization is going to be really critical. Very quickly on this one and the other one. Another thing that was very interesting for us is that all the visions of smart cities are something like you just don't understand if this is really a city or just a place where you don't just have artificial intelligence and robots. I'm not going to go into details of this part of the document, but I just want to show you the picture on the left. It's from a future vision for mobility in city from a car manufacturer, and the idea is that all cars are autonomous, and the people that are crossing the street, they just can cross it without checking any lights or anything, because the robots car are just avoiding them at high speed. And I think it's very interesting because it shows that for a lot of people, cities are a problem that you can solve by technology. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure I want the streets of my city to be a place where I just have to walk blindly and pray for the algorithm to understand that I just want to cross the road and don't want to be crushed. And the last part of the last issue is that in those highly connected public spaces, anonymity is going to be a privilege. And we see that solutions that are not widely accepted or successful on screen, like checkboxes, opt-outs, banners, cookie banners, for example, incognito mode. If you just use that in the public space, it doesn't work really well. For example, when you have Wi-Fi tracking systems in airports or in public transportation, just putting posters saying we are tracking your Wi-Fi MAC addresses on your phone. If you don't want to be tracked, just turn off the Wi-Fi. I'm not sure that it's completely fulfilled the consent definition in the GDPR. So we see it's going to be very difficult, and we have to invent new tools, for example, technical tools to answer this kind of problem. Or we're going to go to the Chinese example with the facial recognition that is used to show the name and the pictures of people that cross the streets outside of which is from a proportionality point of view, not maybe not a angle. And so the last thing, because I think I'm pretty much out of time, okay, just 3 or 4 minutes. The last part of the document, the only one that is in English, was an attempt for us to build a matrix of scenarios around data sharing involving the individuals, private companies, and public actors. What we did is that we were, okay, so data that are produced outside the scope of public services are going to be very, very valuable for a mission of public interest. So how can we design different models for data sharing and look at them from data protection and GDPR compliance point of view. So that's what we did with this matrix. I'm not going to explain everything because it's into it too long, but the idea is that we think that it won't be possible to have a one-size-fits-all model, like, for example, a very extended open data model or something like that. We will need very different models of data governance if we want to be able to do everything that we need to do. We will need maybe more mandatory private open data, which is something that begins to exist in France. But if we are in the open data area, it's probably going to rely on anonymized data, and it's a discussion we have already begun. Anonymized data means that it's not personal data anymore, so the people that are using the data are not data processors and data controllers. So it will probably create a need for strong aggregation, for example, of the data. So you're going to lose a part of the data. There is no magic bullet in the anonymization methodologies. There is always a dark side when you're using anonymization methods. Anonymization methods that keep the data exactly the same from the beginning to the end of the process is probably not going to be an anonymization methodology. We will probably see in the future more a creation of a new legal category. In France it's called public interest data. And the idea is that we have laws that are saying you are a private actor and you are gathering data in the let's say, in very near a public service. So this data, you have to give them to the public authorities so that they can act as a regulator or, for example, create urban services that are based on data that is very complete. And it will create a lot of compliance issue for the local public authorities, for the local government. Two other examples very quickly that we can imagine that there will be more and more data reuse platform where you don't in fact get the data, but you are able to, through APIs or technologies like that, let's say, ask questions and get answer from data that are still under the control of the data controller. And the last one, and it can be a teaser for another talk on Friday. We used the data portability provision of the GDPR to imagine citizen data portability. The idea is that as a citizen you will be, under the GDPR, able to get back and receive data that you have that were processed by private companies, and then give it to another data controller, for example, public authority or maybe researchers in very specific case. And we think that for the moment everybody on portability is just focusing on switching from one service to another, but we believe that in the future there will be scenarios where people will be able to use those tools as for creating data commons or things like that. So that was everything I wanted to share. Sorry, it was probably a bit quick, a bit of rush, but I saved you the time of reading 50 pages French documents. I hope it was worth it. Thank you.